All right, so last week we talked about the 4 questions you need to ask yourself to make sure you're not actually in an SHTF situation, right? If you listen to the news, if you're on social media, if you're on the internet in general, there's so much doom and gloom, and every day seems like it's the end of the world. And so these 4 questions were to help you understand that you are probably 100% fine. There's probably nothing happening to you personally. You personally are great, wonderful, nothing bad's happening. And I told you in that video to focus on things that you can control. The reason we're so stressed and anxious and depressed is because there's all these things outside of our control that we're focused on, and there's nothing we can do to make them go away. There's nothing we can do to change them. And by focusing on things you can control, a lot of that anxiety and depression and everything just disappears. So here are 6 things that you control. 6 things that will help you avoid all the chaos, all the doom and gloom that you personally are in control of. And number 1 is reduce your debt. You're probably not going to get out of debt. You're probably not going to be debt-free. It's hard. It's very, very difficult to be debt-free, especially when inflation is taking off and everything is so expensive. Getting out of debt is very difficult. But if you can reduce that debt and have more money at the end of the month instead of month at the end of your money, a lot of that anxiety goes away because you know you're going to be fine. You know your bills are going to be paid. You know that next month is going to be the same as this month, and I'm not going to have to try to scrape by to figure out how I'm going to pay my bills. I'm not going to have to figure out how to pinch pennies here and there to make sure I keep the lights on, right? If I have enough money and have a little bit extra, even if it's just $50 extra each month, I know that my bills are covered. Worst case scenario, my bills are covered, and that peace of mind and that whole thought process changes when you have, even if it is just a $50 more per month than your monthly expenses, it just puts you at ease. You know what I mean? It just makes everything so much calmer, so much easier, and you're not stressed about this month was so bad, next month's going to be worse. No, this month was fine. So if I copy and do it this month exactly the same as next month will be fine. It just makes life a lot easier because you're not stressed. Because a stressed mind finds stressful things to think about. A calm mind looks for ways to stay calm. And so any way you can reduce that debt, that monthly expenses, get them as little as possible so that you have more money at the end of the month than you have month at the end of your money. Number 2 is stock up on food. With inflation, with the cost of living, with everything going up, there's a lot of people that are saying right now is not a good time to buy and stock up on food because it's so expensive. And I understand that the best time to stockpile food was 4 years ago. The second best time is today, right? If you don't have a stockpile of food, again, life gets so much more stressful. When something bad happens, when there's an event, and you're worried about the event, and you're worried about how am I going to feed myself, how am I going to feed my kids, it just amplifies. You know what I mean? And so the bad situation turns into 2 bad situations because you don't know how you're going to feed your family and the situation itself. If you have a week's worth, a month's worth of food stocked up in your pantry, when something bad happens, you don't have to worry about it, right? When there was looting in Minneapolis, when there was the store shelves were empty because of the pandemic, we just bunkered down at home, right? We avoided the chaos. We avoided the whole toilet paper chaos at the stores. We didn't even go to the stores. We just stayed home. We were fine. As the rest of the world went crazy, we were calmly in our home, just avoiding it all, pretending it all didn't exist. Because again, it was outside of our control. There was nothing we could do about it. But by having a month's worth of food, we knew that we didn't have to run to the store real quick. We didn't have to go through the drive-thru. We didn't have to go to the middle of town when everything was chaotic. We didn't have to worry about the problem, and we didn't have to worry about how we were going to feed ourselves and our family. And so again, it's just that peace of mind. It's just knowing that no matter what happens, we're going to eat. No matter what happens, there will be food on the table because it's already in our pantry. When a bad thing happens, we finally get to use all that food we've been storing and stockpiling. You know, it's not this big emergency like it is for so many people. It's we finally get to use all that stuff that's been taking up space in our pantry. We finally get to eat that stuff before it goes bad. You know, it's almost like a relief. It's not a relief, but it almost seems like that because you're like, finally get to eat some of this stuff. Let's try some of this stuff. Let's, you know, and so it's again, it just reduces the anxiety. It reduces the depression. It reduces all the chaos in your life. Number 3, a lot of people are worried about energy, excuse me, and running out of energy, blackouts, all these different things. Get a generator. Get a gas generator. Yes, I understand that all of these doomsday preppers and all of these prepper channels and self-reliance channels, they talk about how horrible gas generators are because they attract attention and people can hear them and they know you have power when they don't have power, and fine, right? I would rather have power and be able to keep the stuff in my freezer good, keep my fridge running, keep my sump pump keeping the water out of my basement. I would rather be able to take care of my family and maybe somebody get jealous, maybe somebody come and try to take my food, than for my basement to be flooded, all the food in my freezer to go bad because it's not staying frozen. If all that food in my freezer goes bad, I can't eat it. If somebody steals it, I can't eat it. There's no difference. I much rather would have the generator and maybe have that food for a week, a month, maybe a couple months before people start getting desperate. That food's probably going to be gone by the time I'm going to eat it. Me and my family are going to probably go through all the food in our freezer before people get desperate enough to try to steal everything, right? Before people turn into savages, that food's probably already going to be gone. I'm probably already going to be out of gas for my generator. So many events are going to take place before the whole world goes to chaos that I would rather have the generator and risk it than not have anything at all and just let it go bad. You know what I mean? This whole video is about taking control. And if you're scared of this and you're scared of that and you're scared of this, and so you're not taking control over anything and you're just letting the bad things happen, that's why you're so anxious and depressed and worried, is because you're so worried about all these other things. You're not taking control of the things you can control, and which is making it even worse. Get a gas generator. A 3,000 watt gas generator is like $500. Like you can get a cheap one for like $500, and then you have it and you can use it and it'll do what you need it to do. All the experts are going to tell you you need a 3,000 watt solar generator. A 3,000 watt solar generator is like $3,000 plus, right? So you're talking $500 or $3,000. Most people don't have $3,000 to put on a generator. It's just, it doesn't happen. We can barely afford to pay our bills. We can barely afford to save money, right? How are we going to afford a $3,000 generator? We're not. Get the $500 one. Or even the insulated gas generators, the 3,000 watt insulated gas generators that run a lot quieter. They're like $2,000. Again, it's so much more expensive. I would rather have a cheap generator that I can use than have nothing at all. Right? So don't let these people convince you that you have to have the best or nothing at all. Right? I would rather take my chances with the gas generator than to just let all my food go to waste. Number 4, garden. Now gardening can be looked at 2 different ways. I know some people that garden and they grow like habaneros and ghost peppers, and they grow things that are really hard to find at the local grocery store. And so usually when they're hard to find at the local grocery store, when you do find them, they're a long drive to get to them, and also they're very expensive. And so by growing them themselves, they can enjoy the habaneros and the ghost peppers, and they don't have to pay the astronomical price that goes with them. There's also people like me and Caroline, we grow things that we use all the time, right? So we grow tomatoes because we go through a lot of spaghetti sauce, pizza sauce. Caroline likes putting tomatoes on her cheeseburgers and different things. We grow lettuce because we eat a lot of salads. Again, BLTs, if you grow tomatoes and lettuce, you're halfway there. The lettuce can be put on burgers. It can be put on a lot of stuff. We grow potatoes, and then we make our own hash browns and French fries and fried potatoes and baked potatoes, and you know what I mean? And so we grow things that we can utilize in a lot of different meals. That way, instead of buying potatoes a whole bunch of times, we just grow a bunch of potatoes. That way we don't have to buy them as often. Same with tomatoes. Instead of buying tomatoes all the time, we just grow them, and then we can utilize them that way. And it saves us a bunch of money. Even though we do try to grow lots of different things, we're not very good at growing lots of different things, but we've gotten pretty good at growing tomatoes. We've gotten pretty good at growing lettuce. We've gotten pretty good at growing cucumbers and zucchinis. And so those are ways that we supplement our meals without having to purchase sides and purchase, like I said, a bunch of tomatoes for a bunch of different things. We just make it ourselves at home, and we save money through our garden. Also, having a garden means if the stores run out of tomatoes, if the stores have no tomato sauce, they have no tomatoes, there's no tomatoes because of whatever reason, maybe there was an insect that got into the tomatoes and they had to throw them all away, we don't care, again, because we grew our own, and so we have our own. We're not reliant on the grocery stores, and so that stress doesn't bother us. If there's a recall on lettuce, that's fine. We'll get by. We grow our own lettuce. We'll be just fine. We don't have to stress out about it as much. Number 5 is personal protection. Now, I live in the United States of America, so a lot of people have firearms. Firearms are a big part of the United States personal protection, but there are people even in the United States that do not feel comfortable with firearms, and that is fine. It's 100% fine. You do not need a firearm. You don't need the stress and anxiety of owning a firearm, but you need something. You need a way of protecting yourself. You need a way of protecting your family. You need to have a plan, and it doesn't have to be, personal protection doesn't have to be somebody broke in and is trying to kill you, right? It could be a fire. There could be a tornado, a hurricane. There could be high-speed winds. There could be a blizzard, a rainstorm. There could be a power outage. There's so many things that could take place that will put you in a dangerous situation. You need to have a plan, and you need a way of personally protecting yourself in those environments, in those situations. Because again, police officers and fire departments, they don't live with you. You know what I mean? And so for me personally, the closest police department is 30 minutes away. Meaning if they go double the speed limit, it's going to take them 15 minutes to get here. And so in 15 minutes, a lot can happen. 15 minutes is forever. Sit and stare at a clock for 15 minutes and it feels like an eternity. If there's somebody in your house, it's going to feel like an eternity. If there's a fire inside your kitchen, it's going to feel like an eternity waiting for the fire department. You need to have fire extinguishers. You need to have ways of dealing with fire. You need to have ways of dealing with intruders. You need to have a personal protection plan. You need to know how to execute that plan. You need to find holes in that plan and fine-tune them and tweak them. And again, it's just one of those things that's within your control that can make you so much less anxious, so much less depressed, so much less everything, because you know what to do. You know what I mean? It's just that comfort of knowing. The oldest fear is the fear of the unknown, and that fear of the unknown can really mess people up. So put yourself in this situation, study it, learn it, know what you're going to do, know how you're going to do it, know everything you can possibly know about it so that the fear just goes away. Number 6, the final one is DIY. Learn how to do things yourself. One of the fears that I had in 2020, it was a real big fear, was so in 2020 there was a global pandemic and you weren't allowed to go anywhere or do anything, essentially. So if my car broke down and I couldn't go to the mechanic, I don't know what I would have done. If my power went out and I needed to hire an electrician wasn't allowed inside my home, I don't know what I would have done. Same with a plumber, right? And so that was an anxiety that I had, that I was like, okay, you know what? I need to learn what I need. I need to buy the tools. I need to make sure that I can take care of myself so that if people can't come and help me, I can help myself. And I took it amongst myself. I learned how to do plumbing. I learned how to do electrical. I learned how to fix walls and do drywall work. I learned so much things. I bought all the tools that I needed to accomplish these things. And now I'm not worried about it, right? If there's a big giant hole in the wall, I'll just fix the big giant hole in the wall. I don't care. You know what I mean? If there's a clog in the sink, I'll just remove the P-trap, clean it out. It's not a big deal, right? I took the time to buy the tools. I took the time to learn the skills. And now I don't care. Also, mechanics and all these people are charging $85 to $120 an hour to work on your vehicles. Plumbers and electricians are charging $50 to $85 an hour to work on your house. I can do it myself. I've saved so much money. My house was built in 1920, and so it's very, very old. And a lot of the switches aren't switches anymore. They just kind of flop around, and I've had to replace them. If you're looking at $50 an hour and they charge a minimum of an hour, electrician will come in, swap out that switch. It's going to be $50 plus parts, right? By me doing it myself, it's costing me like $1 for the switch. You know what I mean? I'm saving $50, $49 per switch as they're going bad. Some of the outlets, when I go to plug something in, it'll just fall out because the plug isn't as stiff as it used to be. And so I got to replace some of the outlets, or the receptacles they call them. Again, that's $50 per receptacle. I'm doing it myself and I'm saving, again, like $49 per receptacle. And so it started off as a fear of what am I going to do if I can't hire these people? And now it's just a way that I save a whole bunch of money. I save lots of money doing a lot of things myself. The other advantage is tradespeople, they're getting rarer and rarer and rarer. A lot of young kids aren't going into the trades, meaning there's less and less mechanics. There's less and less electricians. There's less and less plumbers. So when I do need a mechanic, when I call my mechanic, it's usually a month or two before he can even look at my vehicle. You know what I mean? I don't have a month or two to just sit around and try to figure out how to get around. By fixing it myself, I can fix it today. I can fix it right now. I can fix it this weekend. You know what I mean? I'm not waiting a month or two to let somebody see it. I'm getting it fixed in a day or two or a weekend. The other advantage is a lot of times when you go to a mechanic, the mechanic will charge you parts, labor, shop supplies, and the parts they upsell the parts. So if the parts are $100, they'll charge you $110 because they have to take the time to order them and unpackage them and make sure they're the right. They have to inspect them, or they might have to drive and go pick up the parts, and you have to pay all those expenses. So a $100 part might cost you $110, $120, $130 at the mechanic. And so me fixing it myself, I'm only paying $100 for the part. I'm not paying that upcharge, and I'm not paying the hourly rate, and I'm not paying for their shop supplies. I'm paying for my own shop supplies, and so I can utilize those shop supplies for a lot of different jobs, just like they do. They charge you for a whole can of carb cleaner, even though they might use a quarter of it, and then the next person they charge for a whole can, and the next person they charge for the whole can. I'm only paying for a quarter of that carb cleaner. I'm only paying for the paper towels that I use. I'm not paying for the whole roll every visit. And so I save a lot of money. The other thing is the mechanic has a dealer or a distributor that they get all their stuff from. So whatever the price is for that dealer or distributor, that's what they pay, so that's what you pay. I can shop around. Because I'm fixing it myself, I can shop around, I can find deals, I can find things for cheaper. I recently redid the rotors and brake pads on my Blazer, and usually the front rotors and brakes are $250. I got all four, so 2 front, 2 back, all rotors, all brakes for $250. And it's because I found a really good sale, and I was able to get really good rotors and brakes for extremely cheap. And because I can shop around, I can find those sales, and I can save even more money doing it myself. And so again, these are things that you can control to help you afford what you need to afford, help you avoid situations that you don't want to be a part of, help you take control of your life so that when bad things happen, you're not just out of luck. Right? When bad things happen, you only have to focus on that one bad thing. You don't have to worry about the domino effect that takes place every single time something bad happens. You can just focus on that single event, that single thing, and because you can focus on one thing at a time, it's so much more manageable. It's so much easier to deal with. It's so much easier to make just go away, and I hope that I can do that for you. That's what this channel is all about. That's what I want to accomplish. This stuff really means a lot to me. In 2020, I really had a scare. Apparently it was for no reason, but I really was scared, and I really didn't know what I was going to do. And by taking matters into my own hands, by focusing on these things that I can control, my life got a lot less depressed, a lot less anxious, a lot better, and I want your life to be just as good. So thank you so much for watching, and I can't wait to see you on my next video.